So you're a Catholic mom and you're wondering, should I start a business? Now, most of the women that I work with are wanting to start an online business or I want to say like a farmer's market business. I don't see a ton of moms wanting to start a brick and mortar business, but I will address that in this episode as well. But I think for a lot of Catholic moms, they want to have more money, stretch their brain, but still have flexibility enough to be with the kids, take care of the kids. And so business comes to mind. They think, should I start a business? Because, of course, when you spend any amount of time online, the whole internet will tell you it's so easy to make money online. This is great. You should do it. And then you're wondering, is it great? Is it easy? Should I do it? It sounds wonderful to make money, particularly from a computer, while still getting to stay home with your kids. So I wanted to record this episode, to go through the questions that I would ask a woman if she wanted to know about starting a business. These are the things that I would ask her, and these are the things that I would tell her. So the very first thing I ask is, do you just need to make money? Okay. Sometimes we are looking at our finances and things feel tight, or we want to add something and we just want more money. And if you just want more money, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But then I would just ask myself, are there ways to make money that don't involve being an entrepreneur, right? Starting a business means you're choosing to be an entrepreneur. Are there any other ways that you can make money that don't involve that? For example, can you just watch another kid at your house while you're watching your own kids? And I don't mean to minimize that and say that there isn't a lot of work involved in that. It is. There is a lot of work in adding another kid to your house. It changes the dynamic, what happens when your kids are sick or their kids are sick. But you don't need to build a website. You don't need to go through all of the rigmarole of sales and marketing. You probably could just network and say, does anyone need me to watch one or two kids in my house? You could also go get a waitressing job, right? Which doesn't sound glamorous, but if you just need money, I'm telling you, a waitressing job is easier than being an entrepreneur, right? Going and working at a coffee shop or doing some waitressing nights or weekends. I know that sounds harder because you'd have to leave the house to do it, but I'm going to explain what's involved in being an entrepreneur. And usually that is much more involved and much more difficult than just getting a part-time job working for someone else. And ultimately, I think that's what I want all the brains to know, is that as soon as we put any of these options on the table of making money, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to add discomfort to your life. So we're already in the place where we're saying, I want to add discomfort to my life. In what form do I want to add it? Because there isn't going to be an option that doesn't add discomfort. Now, there are some positive outcomes that come from that discomfort. And so we're just weighing all of them. Okay. And the reason that I'm leading with the money question instead of the prayerful question is because if you are needing money and you're in a stress state, you're not calm enough probably to discern what God wants you to do. So ultimately, of course, I think what God wants you to do is the most important thing. But a lot of times I find I've got to work with the woman in front of me. She might be freaked out about money. And so we've got to just get to the truth of that and figure it out to calm her down enough to then go ask the Lord what to do. So check in with yourself. Are you freaked out about money? Are you in a stress state? Because if you're stressed out, your ability to see all of this clearly and to make clean decisions is going to just be diminished. And then I want you to be clear about how much money you want to make. Is it $500? Is it $5,000? How much money do you want to make? What are you going to use that money for? And I want you to differentiate between however much money someone is going to pay you or the business is going to bring in and how much money is going to make it to your bank account. So we've all had jobs and we know that if somebody pays you $30,000 a year, that's not how much money is going to get transferred to your bank account. They're going to take money out in taxes. And the same thing is true with a business. If the business makes $30,000 a year, that doesn't mean that that is what's going to make it to your bank account to spend on your family. So get really clear on what the transfer to your family bank account number is. And it's easier then to say, okay, I need a job and minus the taxes, this is how much money I'd need to make at that job. It's a little harder to do that with a business, especially if you haven't started it yet, because you don't really know what those expenses are going to be. So just sit with yourself. Is this just about money? It is okay to choose to be an entrepreneur just because you want to make more money. Okay, that's okay. There are 3 different kinds of entrepreneurs, and I've mentioned this before. The first kind is one that, for whatever reason, can't go work for somebody else. So that may be you. You may have 3 small children, and it's not going to work out for your body to leave the house to go work for someone else. So you're choosing to be an entrepreneur because that is the best option you have. But it's not like you really want to. It's just, hey, that's what's available right now. The second kind of entrepreneur wants time and flexibility freedom. So again, they probably wouldn't choose to be an entrepreneur, except that they want flexibility for either when they work, how they work, and to make more money than they could make working for someone else. And then the third kind of entrepreneur is one who just loves business, loves entrepreneurship, and would do it even if other options were available. So it's good to be a level 1, 2, or 3. It's just acknowledging where you're at. And so, is this about money? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? If you don't, and I think that that's totally fine, you may still choose to do it, but let's go in eyes wide open. Like, hey, I am choosing to do something that maybe isn't my natural talent, maybe isn't what my heart desires, but I'm doing it because I want time freedom, money freedom, flexibility, be home with my kids. Get really clear on whether or not this is about money. So some of you might be level 3 entrepreneurs and it isn't necessarily about money. Like, it's fun to make money, but you're doing it because you love the game of it. Because you love business, because you want to play around with business and you enjoy the process of sales and marketing and growing a business. But I want you to know that even if that's not you, it is still totally fine to be an entrepreneur. Just be clear about where you're coming from and what you want out of this. Okay, so hopefully you've gotten to the place where you see what the money equation is and you've decided what level of entrepreneur you think you are. Now I want you to go spend some time with the Lord. Be like, Lord, I think this is where I'm at. I'm not scared. I trust you. You have given me gifts and talents. You have given me resources, right? He's given you the amount of time that you're going to have, the house that you're going to have, the ages of children that you're going to have, a husband who does whatever your husband's going to do, right? He's given you all of these factors and you want to ask him, how can I honor you, Lord, with all of these resources that you've given me? Time, money, knowledge, talent, all of those things. And you could say, right now, Lord, I think I want $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, my husband to leave his job, my kids to go to Catholic school. And I think that maybe starting a business would help me get there. And just sit with him, but with complete openness. One of the gifts that women have, our feminine genius, is that we are very receptive. We are very intuitive. And so when you come to the Lord with closed fists or crossed arms or panic, right? It is the opposite of being open and receptive. So you want to get to the place where you're feeling really open, really receptive, really trusting. Like, okay, Lord, I trust you. And maybe as you're making this decision, you feel financial stress. That's okay, but I just want you to check it at the door before you go talk to the Lord. I want you to remind yourself, I've paid for my life 100% of the days so far. I don't actually know what's coming in the future. And today I am okay. Today I am safe. And I trust that God is good and He has a plan and I can handle what He brings me. Get to that place so that you are calm even for 5 minutes, that you can be open and receptive to God's plan for you. Okay? And then listen for whether He's calling you to business or not. Because I will tell you, the best feeling to drive your business is conviction, which is just being very sure that God is calling you to this. You don't need to see the whole future. You don't need to see what the business is going to do. You just need that green light. And then you're going to be a problem solver. That's what business is. It's just being a problem solver. But I think of adding business to your life like adding another child into your life. It's that big of an impact. And so we prayerfully discern whether or not we're going to add a child to the family. And we have some sense of how disruptive that's going to be. And I want you to think about starting a business like that. I think there's just so much on the internet that makes it sound like you can work 4 hours a week and make good money. And I have not seen that to be true for most people. For most people, it's adding a lot of time, a lot of emotional stress because you're mostly working outside of your comfort zone for a long time. And you're fitting it into your family life, and it takes a while to get it off the ground before it starts paying you and making your life easier. So I just think it's good to say we're going to make our life harder on purpose. And that's how I think about adding a baby to the family. Even if I really want a baby, I'm like, yeah, it's going to be hard to be pregnant. It's going to be hard that first year. And then we have another human in the house that we're taking care of. And I still think it's worth it. But I don't tell myself, oh, this will be easy. This will be the same that it is right now. So I want you to choose business eyes wide open. And I want you to go look for conviction from the Lord because you're going to have to hold on to that later when things feel challenging. So then the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to talk to your husband about it. And I want you to say, all right, here's the money situation as I see it. Here is what I've heard from the Lord. What do you think? Because God speaks through husbands too. And so we want to know what he thinks. We want to know what he's worried about. What are his concerns? What are his boundaries? I think it's really important that this is a family decision. And you may go back and forth a little bit between husband and then praying with the Lord and discerning, right? It may take a couple of sessions with the Lord and with your husband to kind of hone in on what you're being called to do right now. And again, that's all you have to know. All you have to know is what are we doing right now? You don't have to know what your life is going to be like if the business blows up and is wildly successful. Sometimes our brain wants to freak out and solve that problem. I'm like, well, but right now, are you willing to put in 10 hours a week? Are you willing to invest money up front? Right? Because an online business isn't free. You usually have to pay for website hosting and a bunch of tech things. And pretty quickly, it can end up costing $500 a month. And so you just want to talk to your husband about that. Are we going to open up a bank account? Are we going to put some money into it? And am I going to use that money to build this business until it makes money? So you're going to maybe have to have a couple sessions with the Lord and with your husband until you make a decision. Another thing that I want women to know is that business will be about 20% of what you're talented at or what the business provides, and 80% sales, marketing, administrative, strategy, all these business things. So, for example, one of my clients teaches singing lessons. right? She loves singing. She loves helping people sing. She loves teaching girls how to sing, traditional Gregorian chant or Latin songs so that they can go book gigs at weddings. Love this. And that probably lights her up. Her soul is alive when she gets to work with these girls, women, and teach them how to sing holy music for the Lord. That is a very small percentage of what she spends her time on compared to how much time it takes to build a business and find clients. And so I just want you to know that going in too, that whatever you love, I love coaching. I love podcasting. So I'm doing what I love right now, but it is a small percentage of what I spend my overall time doing. Even after I'm done recording this podcast, I will have to write the description. I will have to create a graphic around it. I will write an email to send to my list. And all of those things aren't as much fun as hitting record and doing this podcast for you. And that's okay. I've been doing this long enough that I know that the 80% of the business tasks earn me the privilege of getting to do the thing I really, really love. And so I want you to know that that's what it's going to look like. Don't be surprised by that. And I think there's probably some similarity in motherhood too, that, there's these moments where we push them on the swings and they're giggling or they say their first words, or I love walking out into my living room and sometimes all three of my girls will be sitting in the living room reading books and it just warms my heart and it makes me so happy. But then there's a lot of cleaning up diapers and washing dishes. So I don't know that the Pareto principle works for that. I don't know if there's an 80-20 of motherhood. But we know it's not all just the fun parts. We know that there is some actual just nitty-gritty work that needs to be done as part of the vocation of motherhood. And working entrepreneurship is just going to be the same thing. And if you choose to get a job, it will be the same there too, right? You'll get a job and there will be some parts that you really enjoy and there will be some parts that you don't enjoy. And so I think sometimes we talk ourselves into entrepreneurship because we think it'll be easier. I just really want to challenge you on that. And if you have a friend that works for someone else, go talk to them and just say, what does that look like? Because there may be parts of their job that they don't like, but then the benefit is they get paid consistently and right away. So that's the next point that I bring up to moms who are thinking about starting a business. And I just want to ask, what if it took 4 years? What if you thought about it like college and it took 4 years to get off the ground and get to the place where you want it? Maybe that's $5,000 a month. Would you still be willing to do it? I mean, if the answer is yes, I say for sure do it. I'm pretty confident that most moms can get a business off the ground that's making $5,000 a month within 4 years. And I think a lot of you can do it in 2. But go in saying, what if it took 4 years for me to build my own job? Because then it would be flexible. Now, some of you, God will have placed a much bigger business than that on your heart. And you are looking to make a 7-figure business. But we don't know that just now. Right now, we're just making the decision to say, yes, I'm going into business. Am I willing to do it? Even though I know that it's going to be challenging, even though I know that I'm only going to spend 20% of the time doing the fun thing that I really like doing or that I'm talented at. And I think having conviction that the Lord is calling us to do it gives us strength to say yes, to open that door, even though we don't know what's on the other side of the door. So those are the things that I ask. I really try to figure out, how scared is the woman in front of me? Is she scared? Is she stressed out? If I sense that, then I try to get her to be calm first and then start problem solving. Okay? I promise you can get your body to a calm state, to a peaceful state. And then I want you to think about this. Do not decide to start a business from fear or scarcity. Another form of fear or scarcity would be having a job and finding out you're pregnant. So maybe you leave the house or you work for somebody else and it's not very flexible, and you pop that pregnancy test and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? Well, I want you to calm down and be like, I'm going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to talk to the Lord and I'm going to figure out what he wants me to do. And I'm going to be brave enough to say yes. All right? We don't want knee-jerk reactions. We don't want to be making decisions from fear or scarcity. And scarcity means not enough. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough flexibility. Don't want to be making decisions from there. So you have to get calm first, then we bring in the Lord. Because if you're super freaked out, if you're in a stress state and you're praying from that state, it's just harder to hear him, you guys. It's just harder to hear him. So we want to calm down. Then we're going to talk to the Lord. We're going to talk to your husband. There might be a couple of those conversations. And we're going to be really honest with ourselves. It's going to be hard. It's going to take longer than we think. And I'm not going to spend as much time doing the fun things as my brain wants to think as I'm selling this to myself. Am I willing to do a whole bunch of things that feel uncomfortable, that I'm not good at, for the privilege of getting to build a business? And I will sit here and tell you, I think it's worth it, right? I think it's worth it to do the hard things, to make that sacrifice of time, to wake up early, to work through nap time, to go through all the tech challenges. There's so much technology and it's annoying to do it. But here I am, 7 years in, and I don't really count maybe those first 4 years, because in those years, my husband had a job and I wasn't really trying to make a ton of money. So I was kind of playing at business and having babies. And that's the phase that I wanted to be in. And that's totally fine. And then from the moment that I went, you know what? I really want to make money. I feel like I'm 3 years into that. But it feels like a total of 7 years for me. And here I am. And I work from home. And my husband's home. And I have a lot of flexibility. And it's still challenging. But it's really rewarding. And it's very satisfying. And I believe it's what God has asked me to do. And I will keep going until he tells me not to. So it's a continual discernment process. Continuing to check in with your husband and thinking about your family and the Lord. Is this what you're calling me to do right now? Because it is an unusual calling to be called to grow a business while raising kids. So I hope this episode is helpful. If you have a friend who's thinking about starting a business and asking you questions, I wanted to have an episode that you could say, go listen to this episode. These are the questions that you should ask yourself. All right, ladies, get to work. I love you. Have a blessed day.